Hey guys, before we get into the video, I just want to mention this is going to be talking about some very dark themes, some very messed up stuff, some R or X-rated stuff. So if you don't want to, deal with that today, maybe today's not a good day, or maybe this stuff is very sensitive. And I will be uploading another video. It's either already uploaded or will be uploaded at the same time as this one. That's sort of just a supplementary one. There is some good stuff in there, but viewer discretion is advised. Hello there everyone, today's a very special video because I don't know if I'm going to call this a collaboration, I don't know if I could call this a collaboration, but I'm being inspired today by the one, the only SpookyRice. If you do not know SpookyRice, you should get to know his content. I don't know the best way to say it. SpookyRice has been a juggernaut in the disturbing film and or film side of YouTube for about 5 to 6 years now. He has talked about some of the most nauseating, fascinating films of all time. He discusses it in length detail, and if you're those people who like the messed up stuff and don't like it when YouTubers don't show it off, don't worry, he shows off most of it. If not, he probably has I think he has a second channel where he also shows it off. I'm gonna be linking all the stuff down below. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to link the second channel, but I'll see what I can do. But I decided to do something unusual that I usually do. I decided to contact Spooky, and what I got back is one of the most genuinely nice exchanges I've ever had with a person on the internet, because I not only asked him, hey, could I review your merch, and obviously, but I decided to ask him, hey, could I parody or make a tribute to your channel and one of my silly little videos? And he was in the full right to say, no, screw off, I'm getting my lawyers. But he didn't, and not only did he cheer me on, he gave me a recommendation, and also I think told me to link the video, so I'm sending him the video, which, Spooky, if you're watching, hi. Spooky, I love your stuff. Also, congratulations on 600,000 subscribers. So what we're going to be doing in today's video is not only, I'm going to be showing off the merch, I'm showing it off right now, if I edit this correctly and all that stuff. It's very high quality merch, not gonna lie. I love the design, it's very cute. Links down below. But I will also be talking about some films that he has, sort of given his thoughts on, and I'm gonna give my thoughts on. So if you like the videos where I ramble and stuff and go into hyper specific detail about stuff, that's sort of the thing. But also, I will be, talking about my favorite parts of the movie, but also the disturbing parts of the movie, because, these films did disturb me. So yeah, before we get into it, thank you, Spooky. Thank you to the viewers. We hit 200 subscribers the other day, which I was really happy about, and the Sour.gg video is doing really good. All his links will be down below. All my links will be down below, so go check them out. And I think that's about it. I don't have a Gohan to cue, but cue the Bat Derpy meme. Going to the film Spooky recommended, it was I Spit on Your Grave in 1978. Now, if you're in the disturbing movie trend or on that side, you definitely know the name of this film. It was a R-word revenge film. I'm just gonna censor that one because I know YouTube is weird about that. But then again, I'm a very small channel, so I don't know why it should matter. But yeah, it was an R-word revenge film that was released in 1978, originally under the name Day of the Woman. It would later be changed to I Spit on Your Grave, and which I personally like the thing of I Spit on Your Grave more. I think it's cool. It would be directed and written and edited by Mir Zachary, which hopefully I'm saying that right, and starred Camilla Keaton in the role of Jennifer, the main character, who of course gets R-worded and gets her revenge. Now, going into this, I also, while I was doing the research for this, because I looked at articles, I looked at IMDb, I found out that the son of the director went on to make a documentary about this. I think it was called Growing Up on I Spit on Your Grave, or Growing with I Spit on Your Grave, because he was actually one of the child actors in the movie, if I remember correctly, which I do recommend watching that because it was very insightful to how not only the cast thought of the movie after it was made, how it affected their lives, but it was also just a very wholesome thing for something very not wholesome. But delving into the movie, I weirdly enjoyed it, and let me say why I did, is because this was a very low budget movie. It was made for $80,000, which compared to nowadays is not much. I think it's about $300,000, which I know sounds a lot, but for a movie with this amount of effects and stuff, that's still not a lot of money. But the reason why I enjoy it is it's raw in the violence happens to the perpetrators, because I think the worst thing that occurs in horror movies is you have this big bad and stuff, and you sort of their end doesn't really it's not gory enough. It's just oh, okay, so this person slaughtered 10 people and is gonna get killed off screen, or it's just gonna be a shot to the head. No, drag that shit out, you know what I mean? And going into the parts that I felt like just went on way too fucking long, were the R word scenes. Obviously, it was effective. It was very effective because the entire point of it was to put you in the mindset of the victim, the main character, and it worked. It would have worked just as well if they reduced it by about 10 minutes, which that's another thing with this movie. It's an older film, so it's going to be a bit slower, which I did have to watch this at 1.25 speed, so there's that. But suffering through the dredge of all that, it is very raw. Like, none of it's censored at all. You see female genitalia, you see male genitalia, you see female ass, you see man ass. You just see a whole lot of bits and kerbopples and all that stuff, which respect, but also it was just sort of weird sitting at my PC, you know, fucking working on finals and shit, and I just see that out of the corner of my eye. Really fucking weird. But the aspects of the movie that didn't sit well with me were not only like those drawn out scenes, but also the depiction of one of the characters, which when we get into the remake, I can delve more into. But there's a character by the name of Matthew. He is the first out of the 4 people that you meet that would later go on to assault Jennifer, which I'll get to the other guys when we get to him. He is coded to be special needs and or has a mental disability. I believe I had to double check the wiki for this movie, and you know, I believe that's what it says. But I'm gonna be honest, if you just said that he was like one of those nice guy archetypes where he was just like, oh, he was raised at home, you know, homeschooled all himself, very sheltered, and he was one of those nice guy archetypes, which he sort of becomes later on. If you just did that, I feel like it would have been just as fine. You know, I wouldn't have felt as icky, because watching the movie, it was just, I don't know how to say this in the best way. It wasn't obvious, because looking at the 2010 one, they were just like, for some, like, that was a fucking weirdly crude depiction of it. But if you just made it to where he was just like a sheltered, you know, mama's boy who becomes the nice guy, who the nice guy archetype, you know, that's seen in media, I felt like that would have been way better. The depiction of Stanley and Andy, you know, I really couldn't tell the two apart. You know, of course they were distinctive, they were somewhat distinctive characters, but really I couldn't fucking tell them apart. They weren't very outstanding. Nothing against the actors, it's just when you have like the polar ends of it, you need like, they're in the middle. But then you have the character of Johnny, and he is the most ruthless, fucked up son of a bitch, and I fucking love seeing that, because you feel even, and his death is amazing. I'll get into the deaths in a minute, but just his character is so fucking slimy and gross and stuff, because not only is he doing this horrendous act, there's a scene where after the assault, Jennifer like pieces herself together and is planning this big spree of doing it all, which I do enjoy that. You see him just interact with his family and stuff, and it is just fucking vilely humanistic. No, not human. Vilely realistic, I guess you could say, is the best way to say it. But yeah, and it's like just so weirdly interesting, because not only is the actor, looking at his name, I believe his actor was Aaron Tabor. The actor of Aaron Tabor, he was really good in this role. Just seeing the chemistry between Camila Keaton and Aaron Tabor, which hopefully I'm saying his name right, was just like, oh, they must have been friends on set, but they were just like perfectly antagonistic with each other. Jesus Christ, it worked so fucking well. But yeah, getting into the kills, I'm of course not going to show them, but I'm gonna describe them and discuss them. Once again, if you want to see them all in action stuff, go check out Spooky. It was literally his first fucking, the movie he talked about. I think it was one of the first ones, which I feel highly honored that I'm gonna be talking about his basically his baby. I won't be talking about Deja Vu though. I didn't watch Deja Vu. But the deaths that occur is Matthew is sent to kill Jennifer, because he was originally supposed to stab her to death, but fucking pussied out last second, or chicken out and stuff. And he's a fucking sniveling, crying, not crying. He's just like being a fucking piece of shit about it, because he's just, and once again, if you just made him the nice guy archetype, would have worked perfectly fine, because he's just like, oh, now I got no friends because, you know, we decided to assault you and it's all your fault. That's what he's basically doing. To which then she seduces him, and while he is trying to get his rocks off, she slips a noose around his neck, double ties a rope around the tree, uses like a pulley system, and fucking just hangs him with his pants down, and then just drops his ass in the lake, which I feel like the dropping his ass in the lake, just kiss, just a cherry on top of this, just a chef's kiss. The next one is Johnny's, which originally starts out with her, I'm trying to remember, I believe she goes to the gas pump that they first met in the beginning of the movie. She takes him out to a field, forces him to strip bare down naked, and then is about to shoot him. But then I don't know if this was just like she changed her mind on how she wanted to kill him, or he was just really fucking convincing and then she got the idea later. But he convinces her to not kill him and stuff, and it's a really fucked up speech. And once again, Aaron Taber is so good at being such a vile piece of shit, which I just have to respect him for that. Which it then ends up with her at the log cabin, or just the cabin that she was staying at. They're bathing in the bathroom. It's a very drawn out scene, and you're just like sort of like weirdly on the edge. Like you're just like, oh, you're not at the edge of your seat, but you're like about an inch away from the edge. It's like, oh, what's going on here? Which once again, I'm gonna get very explicit with this. She starts giving him a hand job, and before he climaxes, she grabs a knife and then slices off his cock, which should happen more in these R-word revenge movies. That should happen way more. And I love the both simplicity and the horror of it, and then what follows after this, because you know he's fucking there just like grabbing his crotch, just like, oh, you bitch, you cut off my dick. She locks the bathroom door, goes downstairs, and then just turns on, she puts like a record on, and it's just like some orchestral music, maybe some Beethoven and stuff, and you just see her staring up. I think she's staring up at the ceiling while this is playing. She turns up all the way, but she does it enough to where she can still hear him screaming his head off, because you know he's bleeding out to death in the bathtub, but she has the record playing. And I'm not gonna lie, that scene is worth just sitting through the movie. That scene is just so fucking, I said chef's kiss earlier, this is like chefs, like 30 chefs kissing the fucking creme brulee, whatever the fuck this metaphor is going for, of not only like just like sound design and filming and all that stuff. It's just, Jesus Christ, you cannot do that again. And if you did, people would just be like, oh, it wasn't as good as the original. To which then you just see his corpse all bloody and stuff going down the basement, which I like that she hides the bodies. I enjoy that. Which, by the way, fun fact, that was apparently the first scene that Aaron Taber filmed on set. I found that out through the documentary. And then the next two scenes, these are what wrap up the movie, which you know, I sort of like Johnny not being the last one, because I imagine he's still kind of alive, just bleeding out on the steps. She heads back to lake where to once again, I'm not gonna like delve into the story too much, get into specifics. She was in a canoe, and I believe they like grabbed her canoe while they were on a motorboat, while they were on a speedboat or motorboat or whatever it is, or like just a boat with an engine. The engine is very important, and took her away. And then that's when the R-wording scenes happened. So, you know, it's sort of coming back to where the incident all happened. It's very weirdly hard to describe. So they know that Johnny, I don't know if they know Johnny's dead. They know Matthew's dead, to which they're gonna hunt her down. One of them has an axe and the other one's like guiding the boat and stuff. And it's very hard because the way the scene is shot and the way I'm trying to remember it is, to get down the brass tacks, she steals the axe away and the speedboat, and then while I believe it's Stanley who's the second to last death, is like trying to exit the water, she speeds at him with the speedboat and then just bashes an axe into his back, which is just, that is such a cool way to go, and the effects are pretty solid. To which then Andy, he's the final one, and I believe he was like talking about just like, don't hurt us, it wasn't us, we were forced to by Johnny. And you know, that's why I'm saying I'm glad Johnny wasn't the last one, because now like I'm imagining her mind, she's like, oh, trust me, I already did. To which I believe she said something like, fuck you, bitch, or something like that, and that was a reference to how one of the characters earlier said that during one of the assaults, to which she turns on the rudder and then just minces his guts. So what is like my whole entire, like, I gushed about the film, and doing into the research of it is, it's very polarizing, because initially when it came out, it was seen as anti-women. It was seen as very, you know, violence against women, which that is a major thing horror is like people denounce horror for, because of violence against women. But then you see like nowadays is that sort of seen as a feminist horror film, which I don't even think it's a horror film, because even like Meyer Zachary, if you looked at the documentary, or Zachi, I hope I'm saying that right, Zachi even says it's not even a horror film, it's a horrific film, but it's not a horror film. But it's like sort of, it's people are like cross between what it is, and that's sort of a thing, especially at the time. It was seen as weird for, you know, a woman to be that violent and stuff, but the way that the earlier in the movie, it establishes, you know, the mindset of her. You know, you live through that stuff. You're just rooting for her to murder these sick fucks. And and like some of the fucking like incel people just like, well, it's anti-man. No, it's not anti-man. It's anti-fucking rapist. You're finally seeing the horror movie character, you know, the final girl, giving these killers what they deserve, or giving these abusers what they deserve. And it's such a relieving film. And am I ever gonna rewatch this movie? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a rewatch one of these days. I'll probably skip over the earlier scenes. You know what I mean? But yeah, I can see why a lot of people love this film, and I can see why this would later get a reboot, and hell, even a direct sequel in 2019 done by the original creator. Anyway, talking about the reboot, let's get to it. Before we delve into the reboot, I totally forgot I was gonna mention these. The thing I liked the most about this one was the penis slicing / orchestra scene. It was very good. It was very drawn out, and it just was just like, how do I say this in the best way? It was the perfect payoff. I gotta say it was the perfect payoff. And probably the most disturbing scene, I'm gonna say 2 words: rock scene. And you can go watch either the original movie, or you can go watch Spooky's video on it, and you'll know what I mean. That was pretty fucked up, and it nearly made me puke. Anyway, let's get on to the reboot. The Ice Boundary Way 2010 reboot or remake, I can't remember which one they say it is, was actually written by the original guy, Meyer Zachy. It was directed by Stephen R. Monroe, and weirdly enough has a higher IMDb score than the original. And also weirdly more reviews, I noticed that. But going into this one's gonna be less talking about the story, because the story stays essentially the same, except for the other half of the movie, which I'll delve into the differences. This one is just sort of, it has a purpose, because, you know, it was using the torture P era of horror movies very, very, very gratefully. I wish the film would have had more of a budget, because in some scenes you can definitely tell it's fucking fake, and there's horrible CGI ravens at one point that just looked fucking terrible. Like, that was probably one of the grossest parts, probably the fucking ravens. But the first major addition to the film compared to the original was Sheriff Storch, which I'm mixed about how I feel about him, because they added another character to the runtime, which I like his characterization. The really fucked up authority figure, which, you know, delves into how a victim of this sort of assault, you know, how a lot of perpetrators of these sort of things have connections. I'm not saying all of them, but, you know, they have their connections, which can cause a legitimate fear, which I don't know if they did this to justify why she wouldn't go to the police. I feel like regardless, she should have murdered them, you know what I mean? Whether she could have gone to the cops or not. I feel like it's more powerful that she didn't go to the cops. But then again, 1970s, so. But the other major thing that they do is they change the perspective of the film halfway through. Well, actually, the whole film has the perspective of more of the guys than anything. The perpetrators, the rapists, which I don't really like, to be honest with you. When I'm watching a film about this, it's way more powerful, I believe, if we follow her the whole way through. We see her do these things. And in this film, after the assault occurs, she is much more still broken, which I understand that completely, compared to the original film where she had pieced herself together and had a resolve where she was going to go after these men. We see a more emotional and broken character, which I get. I would have liked it more if we still stayed with her through this, seeing her go through that shit and have the resolve to fucking murder these people. I feel like it would have been not only a better film, but also it would have been more disturbing to see her fully think and plan this shit out. I felt like it would have been great for it. But no, it actually follows the perpetrators, the rapists, for the latter half of the film, and we see glimpses of her, but it's never truly from her perspective, which sort of ruins the film for me. Well, it doesn't ruin it, it just makes it worse than the original. A thing I didn't really like, besides the CGI ravens and all the other things I mentioned, was once again the depiction of Matthew, because, and once again, I'm going to talk about like who plays the characters in this one, because they're more recognizable actors, I would say. Nothing against the actors from the original, my apologies for that, but you know, I had some interesting stuff that I wanted to talk about with them. The depiction of Matthew in this one is much more, how do I say this, stereotypical of how media would portray someone with severe mental problems. That's how I'm gonna say it. He has the speech issue from the original, which that was a major thing, but he also has some points where it's like sort of a lisp thing. I think at one point he does a snapping of rubber bands, which I believe that's also a thing. I don't fully know if that is a thing. But also at one point he does actions and vocalizations that seemed crude and offensive, at least from my point of view. I don't know how other people feel about it. But also the depiction of the character and his story arc is weirder in this one, because in the first movie, in the assault scenes, Matthew in the first film couldn't nut. And I think it was either because he was with the other guys and he was that sort of thing, or it was because of the situation. But in this film, it's just like in the first assault, Matthew just is pushed into there and stuff, which is so fucking weird, because he would later go on to, when she's about to go on this spree of murders and stuff, she's found to be like living in like some abandoned shack and stuff. I think it's in the original shed as she rent it and stuff, and he goes to like a fucking apologize, and he's crying on his hands and knees, and I still believe he fucking deserves murdered her, but also the way that they fucking depict him and stuff is just, I don't know how to feel about that, man, because his death is even more fucked up in this movie than the original. Oh, well, I wouldn't, it depends on your term of fucked up. We'll talk about when we get to the deaths. Going into some of the other changes that they made in the movie, once again, it's from the assaulter's perspective, so we get scenes where she's fucking with them, like I believe there's like a dead crow at one point gets chucked at this version of Johnny's window, which he's not the main bad, the sheriff's the main bad. At one point, the tape that they record the assault on gets stolen, I believe. And there's a really good scene that I like, is the sheriff has a daughter named Chastity, which pretty on the nose movie, but okay. To which she Jennifer pretends to be a teacher at the girl's school, and there's a scene where the sheriff is calling it, like the wife called the sheriff and stuff. He's like, oh, the teacher's here to talk with Chastity and stuff, and then he's just like, he's focused about finding Jennifer and stuff, so he's like, oh, okay, yeah, put her on. And then he was just like, oh, I'm so happy you got to teach my daughter, Miss Jennifer Halls. And then he fucking just slams the brake. I like that bit. But there's also like a weird scene where Matthew, and I'm sorry to keep bringing up Matthew, but it's fucking, he thinks he sees Jennifer's ghost, which is so fucking weird to me. But yeah, going into the deaths of each character, there's some deaths I liked more than the original. The death of Johnny, in this one, I don't like as much, because I like the more subtle of him getting his penis sliced off, and then him getting trapped in a room where it's just him bleeding out and stuff. But no, in this one, and there was something I forgot, in one of the assault scenes, and I know I wouldn't go into detail about him, but I need to for the death, he has a massive fucking revolver, like a fucking 6-shooter and shit, and makes her fellatio the gun, and it's a tense scene, which so in this one, he gets knocked out. She hangs up his body with like strings and stuff, like bounds him up and stuff, bounds his hands to the floor, and like I think it's like circle gags his mouth to where it's like open and stuff, if I'm remembering this scene correctly. No, I do remember. So after he's hanged up and stuff, she starts like ripping out his teeth with like pliers and stuff, because there was also like when the gun scene was happening, it was like, oh, you got pretty teeth, pretty lady, or something like that, to which she does that a while, and then grabs a knife, cuts off his dick, and then shoves it in his mouth, which I don't know, because the reason why I don't like it as much is because of the special effects, because you can tell that fake penis is not a penis, the penis that's getting shoved into his mouth. One character's death that I actually liked a bit more was Andy's death, I believe. Andy really doesn't have much of a personality. If they dropped Andy from this film, I would have been fine with that. But then again, I do sort of like his death. She has him bound over like a tub of lye, which can like burn off your skin and shit. To which I think she removes a piece of wood that was keeping him stable, to which now he has to like use core and back strength to keep him up. And she like pushes him in and stuff a few times, but I would have liked it if it was just, we saw him progressively as the other deaths were going on, fucking just see that shit and his face just slowly just get burned off by the lye. But no, she like dunks his head and stuff, and then we do get to see the burn face, which I don't know how I feel about it, because I sort of like the effect, but also it does sort of look fucking weird. But a character's death I hate a lot is Stanley's, because it doesn't make as much sense in my opinion. It's very much just like, so like I mentioned before, Stanley is the character where he had the camera and stuff. So she sets up the camera, flips it over, and it's because it's like one of those where he can see the screen and stuff as he's filming. He's duct taped around a tree, I believe, or just tied up, to which she grabs 2 fish hooks and pierces his eyes open and stuff, which I like that was good. The effects are a bit wonky, not gonna lie, but then she rips open a fish and then smears his face in in the fish guts, to which ravens start picking out his eyes. I don't know if a raven would actually do this. I don't know. It seems kind of convoluted to me. That's my main problem with some of these. It's way more convoluted. Like, my suspension of disbelief is sort of just kind of thrown out the window just a little bit, because like the amount of planning and amount of fucking shit you would have to do, because you know, unconscious bodies, not speaking from experience, are pretty fucking heavy to lug around, especially because one of the guys is apparently supposed to be like a fat guy. But yeah, then there's the death of Sheriff Storch. Now, there was, once again, going into one of the assaults, this is, I sort of like the movie because it delves more into like the reasoning behind why these are somewhat drawn out, or like she references the assault while she's murdering the people. Is the sheriff is like trying to hunt her down because he fears something might happen to his daughter named Chastity, which, like I said, fucking on the nose. But how do I describe this? He gets knocked out from my memory, to which his hands are bound behind his back and he's like stuck to a table, bent over. And in the assault scene that this death is referencing, he says he's an ass man. Now, use your imagination for a second, and I'm gonna say what I wrote down in here. Human shotgun silencer. He can talk. It's not shoved in his mouth. I'm pretty sure you can assume where it's shoved in. Yeah, that just happened. Which, I like this death. It's very fucked up. It's very drawn out. And, you know, especially for how the evil look at... I mean, this one was stereotypically evil, which I guess, if you want to go with that angle, it sort of flanderizes each character, which flanderization. But, I like this death. It's very fucked up, and especially the outcome of it is... I don't know, the best way is if you took one of the traps from Scary Movie 4, where the guy has, like, the fucking... I don't know how to describe this. There's a joke where they're like in saw traps and stuff. Two of them have Venus fly traps and all that stuff. And the guy has a fucking, if the timer goes off, a fucking metal rod's gonna go in his asshole. Yeah, it's sort of like if that was taken literally with a shotgun. But yeah. To which then she starts, like, I think she like smacks the ass end of the gun, not his ass, but like the butt end of the gun. Starts just fucking doing that to him, shoving it deeper in there and stuff, and talking about like he was so worried about like his daughter and stuff and all that stuff, like keeping pure, all that sort of shit. Yeah. To which then there's something questionable that happens. To which you know what's gonna happen when she pulls the trigger of that shotgun. But what she does is she ties the rope around the trigger, ties it up once again through a fucking pulley thing, which I guess was supposed to be a reference to Matthew's death. And then you see a fucking person knocked out in a chair with a cloth over. She pulls off the cloth. It's Matthew. She ties it around his wrist and waits for him to wake up. He didn't actually die from being fucking knocked out. To which then I'm just gonna say what I wrote down in the notes once again. Target. That's what he is, not because the trigger gets pulled and Matthew gets shot, and of course the sheriff dies too. Sheriff dies from, once again, human gun shotgun silencer. So my opinion on the film, and before I forget this for like the previous one, least favorite scene was probably the fucking assault scene. Probably the first one with the gun, the 6-shooter one, because that scene was just so fucking drawn out and stuff. And Jesus Christ, favorite scene was once again human silencer, because Jesus Christ, is that a very fucked up idea that they actually executed very well. But delving into this is, for some of these I wanted to talk about where I would know the other actors from. There's a weird connection with a lot of these characters. Going into Andy's actor, the guy who I know the least about, he played fucking Joey in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. You know, the mute kid that would later get like murdered with the fucking pool shit. Yeah, he was in the original 80s films, which is fucking weird for me. But also, there was a weird connection to a lot of these characters, that being Law & Order SVU, with Johnny's actor Jeff Brenson, Matthew's actor Chad Lindenberg, which hopefully I'm saying that right, and Sheriff Storch's actor Andrew Howard, all being in episodes of Law & Order. That is not even a joke. Oh, and also for fucking Chastity the child, is she would also later go on to be in fucking Law & Order SVU. I do not know why. But here's the weirdest thing. There was a character I didn't mention that they added into the film. He really doesn't add much. I sort of like his character. His name is Earl. He is the guy who rents the cabin to Jennifer. He's seen a few scenes. He was seen hunting with Storch. He didn't have any remote connection. I'm pretty sure he didn't even know about the fucking assault. Hopefully he didn't, which now, hopefully that doesn't ruin. His actor's name is Tracy Walter. Now, there is two things I know him for. That being, he played a character by the name of Lamar in The Silence of the Lambs. Great film. But also, he's connected to this channel somehow. And I want you to pause the video for a second and take a wild guess. Leave your guess in the comments on what video he might be attached to. You done? You left your comment? He plays Bob the Goon in the 1989 Batman movie. Bob the fucking Goon. I could not write this shit if I fucking tried. No, he plays Bob the goddamn Goon, aka Joker's second hand in the 1989 Batman movie, which I'm pretty sure I completely forgot to mention him in the 1989 Batman movie review. But yeah, which do I think is more disturbing? That depends on your definition of disturbing. The film as a whole, I would say the original is more disturbing. But the deaths, I would say, including the shotgun, is most bodily disturbed. Anyway, let's move on to the next two films. The next film I wanted to delve into was one that I actually watched not because of the review and stuff. It was actually, I watched it a while ago, that being The House That Jack Built. Now, this is unrelated to the video, but I actually have an ongoing list of films I want to watch before I die. This was one of them. This film was directed and written by Lars von Trier, the legendary disturbing film maker, which if you know disturbing films, you probably heard his name a few times. This was made in 2018, it lasts 2 hours and 30 minutes, and is probably one of the best depictions of a serial killer or truest psychology into a serial killer I've seen. I genuinely love this movie, not because of the character Jack, because I think I enjoy his character, is because its depiction and its discussion, its filmography, its artistic value, it's a great film, which I highly recommend watching if you have the stomach for it. Just saying that straight off the bat. So the reason I like this movie so much is not only from like an artistic standpoint, like the editing is great, a lot of the sound effects, sound editing is great, and Matt Dillon playing Jack is such a great role, I'm not gonna lie. But the reason I love it so much is there is a problem, I say, in some horror movies or some films. You might have heard this from like the film bro or the fucking like dude bro film bros, where they're just like, oh, this character is so deep and stuff. And I want to call them out. These are like the type of people that are just like, oh, I'm so fucking Patrick Bateman from American Psycho or Tyler Durden from Fight Club, which no, you're not. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. But this film solves that answer by the character of Verge, who is basically, his whole entire role is to call Jack out on some shit. Subtly, and may I say, hilariously call him out on some shit whenever he's discussing this. This film is broken up into 5 sections, being the 5 incidents. Each one of the incidents following one of his victims, primarily they are focused up of women, and he even talks about this, and Verge calls him out, just like, what are all these stories about just women? Which he's hand selecting which ones he talks about. He didn't just murder these 4 women, he murdered like 68, he confesses later on, and we see he has a very large pile, so he could be talking about other ones, but he wants to talk about the ones that make him look so smart. He's literally Mr. Sophistication, that's his name that he comes up with. But yeah, these follow the 5 incidents. One of them, the first one, I'm just going to delve into the horrific stuff. The first one being the murder of a woman, where he gets very upset at her. She like calls out just like, oh, you're sort of a weird loner guy, to which he picks up a Jack, which, his name is Jack, and just beats her fucking skull in. It's one good thwack to the head. The second incident follows him trying to break into a, not trying to break into, trying to get inside of a widower's house and stuff. I believe he pretends that he's a cop at one point, and he fucking chokes her, and then I remember this specifically, he chokes her, and then she's not dead, but she can't really move, so she's still like gasping for air, to where he picks up a knife and just fucking stabs her in the heart, or stabs her in the chest area, and you just see the fucking puddle grow, and Jesus Christ, is that like a very fucked up scene. To which he then goes on an OCD fueled episode of trying to clean up all the blood that actually isn't there, to which he has his red van, and if I remember the scene correctly, he like wraps up the body and stuff, puts it in the back of his van, it falls out and then just drags, to which you see the fucking corpse flop by and stuff. And I just thought it was sort of funny, and I'll explain why that's funny when we get to the characters and the actors and all that stuff. It'll make sense more. The third incident involves him going hunting, and I'm gonna try to describe the scene best as well. He is dating a woman who has 2 children, and they all go out, like they're not even like hunting. I don't think they're hunting animals. I think they're just going to a shooting range, which, you know, I've shot some arrows, I've shot some guns and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. Until he gives them all a red hat, and he brings a sniper rifle up to the top of a watchtower sort of thing, and then hunts them like deer. To which there's a very fucked up scene where after he kills 2 of the boys, the mother is obviously very distressed by this. She sort of just, you see her, there's nothing on her face besides utter dread. She can't even like talk or emote and stuff. He sits down the 2 boys' corpse corpses on a picnic and just starts berating her as a mother and telling her to feed the dead corpses of the kids pie, to which he asks her favorite number. I think she says 12 or 11 or something like that, to which he counts, and it's for her to run or her to walk. He wants her to run, I believe, to give chase. But then you just see her limber. She wants to die after all this shit. That's all. She wants to be with her boys in the afterlife, to which he shoots her once in the leg or in the back, and then just blows her fucking brains out with the gun. And then there's a later scene involving the same kid. This isn't the fourth incident yet, where he puts metal wiring before composition, muscles harden, all that stuff, to which you see just this horrific image of the kid smiling with the wires in his face, and it is very fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. The fourth incident follows a person that he calls Simple, and it sort of shows us, how he can emotionally, physically, psychologically, emotionally manipulate. And I'd say this is the scariest that we see Jack. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the previous incident was probably the most horrific we see Jack, so far as I'm discussing, but this is where we see him the most fucked up, because she doesn't even believe that he's a serial killer at one point, to which then she starts screaming for help, and then he berates her and then tells her, no, you're not screaming loud enough, and then he screams at the top of his lungs, and then she's able to run out and stuff and get to a cop. But then he pretends to be drunk and says like, oh no, she's just drunk like me. To which I can't remember the kill exactly how it goes. I believe he ties her up, gags her, and then rips off her titties, like slices her off. And I remember there's a scene where he just fucking plops one of them on top of the cop car. To which the fifth incident is the final incident of the film. And I really don't want to spoil too much. I do highly recommend watching this film because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of the artistic stuff, a lot of the character interactions, character stuff that I haven't delved into yet. But the fifth interaction involves him wanting to kill, I believe, 6 or 8 people at the same time with one bullet. And, there's a little funny... It's funny but fucked up, where he's trying to like line it up, but the scope's not working right, to which then he has to go back to the store because he bought the wrong bullet. That would have, if he'd used that bullet, it wouldn't have gone through all the heads, because a veteran, like, I think he was trying to stall time, or he was just being genuine, just like, nah bro, that bullet's not gonna work. To which then he goes to the shop, and then he's just like, can I trade out the one bullet? And the guy obviously just being like, oh, this guy's a fucking psychopath, just like, no, I don't think you can. To which he gets really fucking pissed off, and he's just like, oh yeah, I remember a guy who has a bullet, which his name is SP, and I have like a list of the deaths written down. That's what's in my notes. You hear like, that's paper and stuff. That's my notebook. To which SP just like confronts him and stuff with all this, calls the police, and then just fucking shoots. Jack fucking shoots him and steals the bullet and then sprints all the way. He doesn't even care about getting caught at this point. He knows he's gonna get caught. He a cop comes to investigate because SP called the cops, and Jack took his robe that he was wearing, pretended to be the dead corpse, shot the cop, then took his fucking car. Siren still blaring. You hear him you hear the fucking siren blaring as he enters into his, I know this is gonna sound weird, pizza meat freezer, to which he tries to line up the shot and is finally able to open a door he hasn't been able to the whole film. And I'm gonna describe this the best way I can, because I really don't want to spoil the themes of this movie. There's a lot of great themes, especially if you enjoy Dante's Inferno, or that whole entire thing, the depictions of 7 deadly sins and all that stuff, the great imagery of Italian Renaissance. Like I said, I highly recommend this. He uses the corpses to make the house that he always wanted to build. He makes a house out of corpses. And then there's a scene involving Verge and stuff where he actually meets him, which I don't want to get into that. I do not want to spoil the ending, but this is a great movie that I personally enjoy, but it is a very fucked up movie, and the only reason I was able to really suffer my way through it is because I had watched not only Spooky's video, which I believe he did a very good job, but also a content creator I might have talked about before named The Vile Eye, which look out for that video in 2024, because that video is going to be a bitch to make. But yeah, that's the only way I was able to easily like get through this stuff, because I was like, oh, okay, I know what I'm expecting. I would say the most fucked up scene, or the most disturbing, is, like I mentioned before, Simple, aka the fourth incident, the whole time fucked up stalkerish approach and stuff. I'd say a second one will be the second incident, weirdly enough, because like I said, the choking, her gasping for air, and then fucking plunging the knife was very fucked up for me. And I think the most enjoyable moment is there is a scene where fucking just Verge calls him out, and I'm not going to spoil the ending of the movie, but something happens to Jack where Verge obviously tells him before he does it, hey yo, that's not going to work, and then just it happens. Go watch the movie, or go watch fucking either one of their videos. Go watch Spooky's video and stuff. But yeah, if you know what I'm talking about, that's a scene I love. But going into the people who played them, is this one was extremely hilarious for me to find out. Let's just go down the list. Matt Dillon, the only thing I really knew him for was the character Dallas Winston from The Outsiders, which that was a fucking amazing thing to find out that he was in one of my favorite 80s movies. The First Lady is played by goddamn Uma Thurman, aka Mia Wallace from Pulp Fiction, The Bride from Kill Bill, and then obviously Poison Ivy from Batman and Robin. Look out for that video in like February. I swear February. And then there is Claire Miller, aka Lady 2, the one that I said was the second worst one, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Siobhan Hogan, who the reason why it was hilarious to me was, and I'll talk about the ones, she played the character of Wanda in We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is a film I also saw, but also, once again, Spooky covered it. He's the dude for all that stuff. And she would go on to play a role of Betsy in the Funny Games remake, which unfortunately I've not seen either one of them fully. I have seen, I think his name is Big Gil or Big Chill. Talk about that one, which I'll link him down below because he was actually very much a help when it came to the 2010 video when I needed to refresh myself for the 2010 I Spit on Your Grave. But also she just straight up played Fred's mom and all the Fred related media. Like I believe she did like the 3 movies and the fucking TV show. She just played Fred's mom, which not to denounce her as an actress, but I grew up on that shit. And then when I saw her in this movie, there was a little fucked up part of me that thought that was hilarious. But unfortunately the third lady, Sofia Garbals, which I hopefully am saying her name right, I don't know much about her, but Lady 4, aka Simple, Riley Keough, hope I'm saying her name right once again, fun fact, is played by the eldest grandchild of Elvis, which was so fucking funny for me to find out. It was fucked up and funny at the same time. But yeah, then there's the character of Al. I believe he is one of, I want to say he's either one of the people that got that was in the lineup for him to get shot, or he was the gun guy that I talked about. I just want to mention this. He was in Saving Private Ryan as Corporal Uphorn. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. There was SP, who I believe Sonny was SP. If not, Sonny was a different character. I just want to mention him because he played a Rebel Force deck lieutenant from Star Wars 5. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I feel like everyone should watch one of Lars von Trier's films. Maybe you'll watch the next one we talk about, and the final one being Antichrist, or Anti-Chris, I'll just call it Antichrist. I'm sorry, that was like a dumb joke. But was made in 2009, was released, not rated, and has like the most amount of reviews for any one of these on IMDb at 134,000. This is solely writer-director Lars von Trier, which stars William Dafoe as the character he, and Charlotte Gainsbourg as she. Now, I would highly recommend, as I've been saying this whole time, to go watch SpookyRice's video on this, because he does a way better description of what actually occurs, the possible meaning of the film, which this film is just a whole fucking, I had to like reread some articles and shit. If there's a novelization of this film, I would love to own that. I'm gonna check thrift books after I'm done recording and editing this video. But yeah, going into it, it's a tale that mostly, if the house that Jack built was the gory side of Lars von Trier, this is the sex side, and not in the best way, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The basic way I can describe this film is it follows a husband and a wife, I believe, or they're dating, I can't remember which, a husband and wife who go up into a garden, aka like they say like the Garden of Eden, which obvious Jesus parallels, after the death of their son, who died from falling from a ledge while the two were banging in the opening scene. So there's that. I had to use a different, I don't know if I was able to find a different, as you guys may have seen, I've been using the fucking posters to talk about these movies. I had to find a different one for the 1978 I Spit on Your Grave, because I'm worried about like the asses and stuff being in there. But this one I also attempted to find a different one of, because the poster is just William Dafoe's ass, so worried about YouTube stuff. But yeah, delving into it, the movie is, I think, the most disturbing in a psychological way for me, because I cannot begin to comprehend anything that's going on, and it scares me. So I'm gonna try to describe some of the things that occur in this movie. So they go up to this cabin, and it gets violently sexual at a lot of points. and I'll talk about some of the fucked up scenes that occur from that. But some of the things I've seen in this movie is a deer walking around with her stillborn baby hanging out from her body, a fox that is, I believe, disemboweled itself, saying chaos reigns, and then I believe, if I'm remembering it correctly, because this one, I watched this one the most recently, but once again, it's a very weird movie to try to think about and describe. There is a raven, I believe, that while William Dafoe is trying to hide from the woman, I think he kills it. I want to say maybe, but yeah, there's a lot of very fucked up scenes. The ones I can remember that stuck out the most to me was in one of the violent sexual scenes. I believe the whole entire thing is the woman doesn't believe William Dafoe's character, I'm just gonna call him he and she doesn't believe that he loves her, so that's why the violent sexual stuff happens, I believe. And once again, it's very hard trying to describe this movie, and I might need to rewatch this movie a few times. I really don't fucking want to, but I will if I try to understand. So she hits him in the dick with a piece of wood really fucking hard. I think he passes out from this, to which she jacks off the bruised dick until he comes blood. So there was that. And I'm going to describe why this is the most disturbing scene. This is what I'm going to call the most disturbing scene. I'll talk about the most satisfying scene at the end, which there might not be one for this one. But, so I broke my ankle in October after a scooter / skateboard accident. It's like a weird combo thing. Happened at a skate park, doesn't really matter. And that affected me psychologically because, you know, trying to deal with school, trying to deal with work, trying to deal with all that, you know, but also from a pain wise. So this, I snapped my ankle, and the healing process, when I watched this movie, I was still healing from it. Like, I don't know the best way to describe it, is like I would put weight on it, but it would feel like at some points I nearly snapped my ankle because like a fear and stuff. But there's a scene where after the bloody masturbation thing happens, the hand job, which two of these movies had a hand job in it. That's weird. She unbolts a grindstone, like a thing they used to like grind metal and stuff, sharpen metal, and screws a bolt through his ankle, through his leg, into the grindstone. And then there's a prolonged scene after he wakes up to him suffering in pure fucking agony, attempting to remove the grindstone. Now, when I saw this scene, I had to pause it for like 30 minutes and just hold on to my leg, because it happened to his left ankle, and the way he was reacting, where it was like him hyperventilating, trying to fucking just move around, but not trying to mess his leg and stuff, and just trying to fix the situation, is the same way I reacted at midnight when I broke my ankle. And just imagining a fifth of the pain that he was going through disgusted me so much that I had to go to the bathroom and puke, because the second I saw her drilling it in there, I paused it and all of it just came rushing back to me. So I sprinted to the bathroom, like hobbled to the bathroom and puked, to which of course it doesn't end there, because she threw the wrench underneath the shed, to which he has to carefully drag himself out with the grindstone still attached to his leg, down some steps, and then across some wilderness, and then down into a hole, a burrow, if you will, because he's trying to hide from the psychopath. Then we get to another very disturbing scene, and I cannot remember where this happens in the movie. I believe it happens near the end. She takes a pair of scissors and then goes down to her devil's doorbell and cuts her devil's doorbell. And I don't have a vagina, I don't have a clitoris, I have a cock. But it's so weird that that scene affected me way more than the cock scene, because I'm used to, I know this is very weird to say, it's funny when people get kicked in the nuts and stuff and all that. It's a funny joke that we've seen a lot, you know? But just, I've never seen a film where that happens. So that was a fucking shock to me. And by the way, out of all the films that I'd seen, the only two that I hadn't like been spoiled on were the 2010 version of Ice Behind Your Grave, but you know, it was a remake. And then this movie, I knew nothing about this movie going into it besides the weird sex shit. So when I saw the clitoris scene, yeah, I was a bit taken back for a minute. That was fun to watch and try to figure out what the fuck was going on. And then, and I was going to say, like, I'm not going to try to spoil this movie, but how the fuck do I spoil something I don't fully comprehend? He strangles her to death after he stabbed him in the back with scissors. And then some weird shit happens. And then there's a scene where he like makes pseudo crutches and he's walking, like not walking, but like hobbling up a hill and all that. And then he's, and once again, this is split up into fucking chapters and shit, but I didn't feel the need to bring it up because you could sort of like watch it without the chapter breaks in there and it still would have made sense. But he eats berries. And in a weirdly beautiful scene, and I don't know what it's supposed to mean, a bunch of faceless women that are blurred out, the faces are blurred out, just approach him. And the music's really nice. We see the deer, and that's the most I could say that was my favorite scene. But going into this, like the rest of them that I want to go through, just to do it. William Dafoe's obviously known for a lot of stuff, but the stuff I know him personally for is Paul Smecker from the Boondock Saints, which if you have not watched that movie, please do. Donald Kimball from American Psycho. The Rat from Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then Nathan Dawkins from Beyond Two Souls, which I should be playing on stream in the upcoming month. And Thomas Wake from The Lighthouse. And then for Charlotte Gainsbourg, she's weirdly enough in a lot of Lars von Trier's films. Unfortunately, I have not seen the rest of his stuff, which, if it's as bad as this one, I don't know if I want to. Unless if we do a sequel, which I don't know. She played the role of Claire in Melancholia, Joe in Nymphomatic, I don't know, in Volume 1 and 2. And then something that is on my list of movies to watch is Pale Blue Eyes, where she plays a character named Patsy, which that is fun. But yeah, my favorite scene is probably the scene where he eats blueberries, because that's the scene after all the madness, and it's very nice and clarity and stuff. And then the most fucked up scene is, I'm gonna say the ankle. You know, it's a three-way tie between the penis scene, the clitoris scene, and the ankle, but I'm gonna say the ankle. So yeah, that's our final one. Let's wrap this up. So there we go. Hopefully I didn't ruin your day too much with this video. And I just want to say thank you all for watching. This was a very exciting video for me to make. Hopefully, Spooky, if you're still watching this, it's a long ass video. You know, I wouldn't mind if you clicked off. Thank you for giving me this chance and stuff. Hopefully it does good in the algorithm. If you make it to the end of this video, any of you guys, Spooky, or any of the people, just like put like a skull or a bat emoji down below. I don't know. I feel like that'd be fun. I like reading comments and stuff. But yeah. What am I gonna say? If everything goes according to plan, December 25th, that is gonna be the Batman Returns video. And I will be doing a 200 subscriber special soon. That's going to be going over everything in my archives. That's going to be a pretty fucking long video, but you guys are going to see some of the stuff I haven't even checked up on the channel. Congratulations to SpookyRice for 600,000 subscribers. Big milestone. I don't know if we'll ever reach that on this channel, but I don't know, maybe. Yeah, go follow all his shit, the merch, his Instagram, and his YouTube channel. Spooky, once again, thank you for letting me do this. There's my stuff down below. Twitch, I'm on there quite often and all that stuff, especially during this upcoming holiday season. But yeah, also go watch the other video that this came out, I know, and all that stuff. But yeah, that's all I can really think to do. But yeah, y'all have a good day, good night, good midnight, good midnight. I'll be seeing you on the next one, and make sure not to die. Bye bye.